Jada, calm down. Calm down. I said calm down.
I think you're getting a little heated. Here, drink more coffee.
Okay.
That's a great way to de-escalate that, Jada.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And, that brings us to our topic today. We've talked about this topic before. We've talked about why it's important and kind of how to do it, but we haven't talked a whole lot about scenarios in which we've seen it used. We're talking about de-escalation.
Yeah, and not just kind of your average de-escalation, but like...
alternative methods.
Yeah.
Things you wouldn't think of. Which brings us to our news story today. Welcome to the news portion of the podcast with your host, me.
That did not take long.
All right. No, it didn't take long to get us here, but oh my goodness, do we have a doozy of the story? This might be the alligator story. Just be the alligator story.
No, because anybody that's going to use a caiman as a improvised weapon, that's got to be the best story we've had. So I'm very interested.
I'm very entertained by this one.
Okay. All right.
So this one starts in front of a guy's house where he's trying to pull his car into a parking spot in front of his own house, where a dude in a moving truck takes it as like an aggressive move. Didn't know the guy lived there or whatever, but takes it as an aggressive move. Now the guy in the moving vehicle, his dad had just died like the day before, and so he's not in the greatest state of mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Takes what the guy did as an aggressive move, opens the dude's car door and is like hitting him in his car, like attacking him in his car. The dude in the vehicle doesn't understand what's going on, but is now like screaming back and forth and fighting the dude off in his car. Draws his legally carried firearm, okay, and is now pointing at the guy. The other dude yells something that was incomprehensible to the dude who pulled his gun and reaches for his waistband and gets behind the other vehicle. So they are now what could be a gunfight, Mm-hmm. So they're yelling back and forth. Little do they know, a third party is walking up. And he's holding up a phone, like videoing. And he's saying something about why people gotta fight and all of this. And, he walks up. What the third party says is they got it. All I know is they got into a vocal argument that soon turned physical. One dude puts some hands on the other dude and darn near snatches him out of the car. Then the one drew down on him. He was technically in the right. The other dude backed all the way back. One man can be seen standing in the middle of the street pointing a gun at the second man who is kneeling behind a car. "Get out of the way," the armed man shouts, while the other one dares him to shoot it. Wading right into the line of fire, third party begs, "Yo, back up. Hey, y'all ain't gotta kill nobody today." "He just attacked me in my freaking car," the armed man exclaims, still pointing the gun squarely at the now advancing second driver. "Chill, put it down, bro. It's all love. It's 2021, bro," he says before giving the highly irate driver a hug. And then walking to the second man to give the same. The two men made up later that day, he wrote. Oh gosh. Yeah, and he goes, "I love everybody no matter what the color or background, and I just wanted the argument to stop." So he goes, "So I gave out hugs." The driver and the man who pointed a gun at him are now friends.
Was third party high?
I think so.
Okay.
There is a video, but I didn't watch it. I was just going, what in the world just happened? Because it has the story from like a couple different perspectives. So it was just trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
The guy weighed in. The guy came into the third party came into the situation. He was because I felt God weighing in on me heavy. Is what he's quoted in saying.
We are not suggesting that you hug someone who's holding a gun.
Apparently, unless the Holy Spirit leads you to.
Okay.
I told you it was wild.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was honestly going to live up to it or not, but yeah, it lived up to the hype.
Wow.
Okay, so hugging, I guess, is a
The power of a hug,
possible
people.
de-escalation technique.
Power of a hug.
Sorry, I'm a visual person. I'm just watching us all walking around hugging people that are pissing
Although,
us off.
if I'm angry, don't touch me.
I know. That's what I'm sitting here thinking. If I am sitting there already that mad, and this person, third party person, comes up and hugs me, I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. I don't know
The
how
dude
I'm
said he was just confused. The one holding the gun, he said, I was just confused because I've got one dude screaming at me to, like, daring me to shoot it, and the other one is coming up trying to give me a hug and talking about love and peace. And he goes, I was just confused. And he goes, it was just kind of surreal. I don't know.
I can understand that. Still trying to. Okay, I'm not. Wow.
Yeah, but the dude offering hugs stepped in between the two dudes and like just walked up to the dude and gave him a hug, and I was just like, okay. Wow.
All right. So, other de-escalation techniques that may not get you shot. Can we talk about those? Because that's all I'm thinking about. Is I'm going to step in between two guys that are drawing down on each other, one and then possibly the other, because it was never really stated whether he had a gun or not, or what. It said he like reached for his waistband and then ducked behind his vehicle.
Yeah, from what I understand, he didn't have a gun.
He just tried to make it look like he had one.
It was just weird.
Okay.
He's reaching for his Cayman. Sorry.
I don't know.
You
where
got a
that was
gun? I got an
located.
alligator,
Where
buddy.
was that?
Cayman,
Where was
Cayman
that
alligator,
situation?
Cayman crocodile.
I don't know,
We've had this discussion on another one. I can't.
but
remember.
you had it in the podcast with Tim.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some traditional and also non-traditional ways of de-escalating situations. Some things that we think of. Every time we talk about de-escalation. Oh, speaking of which, forgot to mention, Kylie's not here and Jentry is here. So, hello, Jentry.
Hi.
Yeah, we kind of like just jumped right into it all, and
It's okay.
you're on here enough to.
Yeah.
Just like regular guest. That one, the story is still playing through my head a lot. So some traditional and some obviously very non-traditional ways of de-escalating a situation. I know that I've been involved in a couple that would be considered a very traditional de-escalation situation, one of which was like my previous job. We would always, if somebody stole something and they got out of the store, we would follow them. And find out where they were going. Not ever put our hands on them, not ever do anything like that, but that way we could just say, hey, police, they are right there. And one situation, the situation that ended that was when we went into, I came up and boss lady comes up, she says, you're the other guy chased these guys down. You need to go after him, find him. He went that way, so I take off that way and just come back from lunch. I didn't know what was going on. I pull up in my truck and found my buddy, and he is talking to two guys. I didn't think anything about it until I get out of my vehicle and I hear my buddy say, all right, now go ahead. And then the first thought in my head was, crap, what did I get myself into? And I walk up, and now I'm trying to calm down two very irate individuals that were actually not there at the store, claiming to not knowing the person. So I tried to take hey, we're not here for you. who's following the guy that stole some stuff from the store. So, you know, I just tried to like calm the situation down. And in a situation like that, you're kind of picking if you have multiple people, you look at the most level-headed person, and you start talking common sense to them and talking in that monotone voice, just really kind of all on the same level, like you're trying to lull someone to sleep. And after a while, his crazy brother was like yelling. My buddy would chime in every once in a while with something that I'd have to like stop him from speaking. And then eventually got him back in the vehicle and we took off. That was a very traditional kind of way of dealing with it. Another time, my wife and I were at a wedding, and on our way out from this like single lane little dirt road that the wedding was being held at, this guy pulls up and blocks my way out and gets out of his vehicle, start yelling, cussing and everything at us, and accusing me of running over his dog in his front yard. And he didn't see who ran over his dog. He didn't know anything about it. It wasn't us. We'd have been in a wedding for 2 hours, you know. So then it's just like go into that de-escalation mode, calm, level-headed, blah, blah, blah. All the while having my hand on the door handle. I thought if he gets too close, if he reaches, I'm going to open this door into his face. And I know my wife, Julie, she said, I've never seen you go into that mode. I've seen you teach it, seen you talk about it a lot, never seen you just like flip the switch and go there. So that's that kind of that first level. It's just kind of like flip the switch, speak super calmly, and have a plan the entire time in case it goes bad, and then be able to execute that plan if it does go bad. But that's that very traditional version.
Yeah, just keeping it that calm, monotone voice and bringing everybody back down to a reasonable level.
Yeah,
it's
as
like
much as you
taking
can.
that moment where it could go the next step up and bringing it a step down instead.
Yep.
Then there are like the non-traditional forms of de-escalation, and sometimes that's just reading the situation well enough to know whether your traditional form of de-escalation is going to work or not.
Right.
Because there are some situations where it just won't.
Yep, absolutely.
And then you have to resort to something else that doesn't look like de-escalation.
Yeah,
Like, not
sometimes
what you would traditionally think.
it could almost possibly look like escalation in some
Yes.
cases.
And now you did have a story at one point of a dude of an instructor that just thought de-escalation didn't work at all, you know, and always gave someone else crap for teaching it.
I can't exactly remember who it is, so if by chance you're listening, I apologize. Not to discredit you or take this away from you or anything like that. I just cannot remember exactly where this came from.
And the story applies, so.
Yeah. So this guy, he was talking about the fact that he did not think de-escalation was a viable means of self-defense. And he was talking to another instructor, and they were talking about it. One really believed in it, the other one did not. And the one that did not, he had a situation where these two dudes come up and started threatening him. And he said, he looked at him and says, "You're not going to do anything." He said, because if you guys decide to attack me, I'm going to break your leg. And he looked at the other guy and he says, "And you're going to run away crying like a little girl." And he said it just completely stopped them in their tracks. And they ended up not attacking him and everything. And he went back to his buddy to explain to him how de-escalation does not work. Verbal de-escalation does not work. Until his buddy pointed out that what he actually did was just verbally de-escalate the situation. Because then he used the same thing. He used verbal de-escalation. He just did it differently. Where he started saying, you know, hey, you can use posturing as a verbal de-escalation technique.
And sometimes you have to flip in the middle of a situation. I don't have any I don't think I have any concrete examples of this, but especially when there's more than one person on the other side, like more than one person threatening, like maybe one.
I think in a situation where you might have to change, it would be easier to go from calm to not calm than to try to do it the other way around.
Exactly.
Because I think if you do it the other way around, it's going to show weakness. And you're not trying to show
Exactly.
weakness in any of these situations, you know?
But starting out with that calm, traditional de-escalation, the trying to talk it down that way, the problem is other parties will feed off of each other's energy too. So if your calm energy isn't getting through, then you might have to do that switch in the middle. Like you see that the calm de-escalation isn't working, and now you have to switch to the almost arrogant. If you try something, this will not end well for you. It's like, and go ahead and switch, because sometimes calm de-escalation can be taken as weakness or just
absolutely.
fear, and sometimes they feed off of it, because like I could see it switching to two people going, oh well, he's just saying that because he's scared, he doesn't want to get, it's like, all right, you know what, this is what's going to happen to you if you continue.
Yeah.
Walk away now.
Yeah. I think even when you're doing that calm, cool, collected kind of thing, it needs to be a confident calmness.
Calm, confident, like Caesar Milan, the dog trainer, says.
Never watched that show. So, but anyway.
Sorry, Jada. We have no idea.
No, I just thought it was funny. Because this whole thing in dog training is you have to be calm and confident for your dog to want to listen to you. And we were like, wow, people are the same way. It's bad that I actually use that, though, like in teaching.
What?
I don't know.
Put that up on
It
the
was
table.
just in my pocket. Yeah, I think that... Yeah. So there's one example of non-traditional de-escalation. I think sometimes ignoring something will escalate it further, and sometimes ignoring something will calm someone down, you know, or stop two people who were otherwise, you know, feeding off of each other from really having fun, because you get a whole different side. So there was this... There was a situation where I was walking to my car from work, and these two guys came around the corner, and they were obviously under the influence of something, you know, but it's two grown men, and I'm walking to my car, which is inside of a gate, okay? And the entrance to the gate is the only way out, you know? There's not... It wasn't open on the other side. There's another gate on the other side, but it wasn't open. So I've got one way in and out of this to get to my car. I get on the inside... and these two guys come around the corner, and they were, you know, using violent language, and I could tell that they were not great, and I was just trying to ignore it and get to my car, you know, walking to my car, and they start looking at each other. It's like, oh, look at her over there. She probably thinks we're going to try and rob her. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go get her. And, like, they start to veer the other way. Like, really? And I was just like, oh, this is great. But something told me that if I turned the other way and addressed them, that it would just... encourage them and make me have to stop, you know? I'm over here going, I am 10, 20 feet from my car. It's like, I am just going to keep going and completely ignore it, because I felt like if I turned and looked at them, it would speed them up, you know, and turn it more into a chase thing, because especially when someone's under the influence, they don't react like... or
normal
like
rational person would.
Exactly. You know, whereas a normal rational person, you know, they might think... oh, she's using her voice, you know? She's not going to be quiet. We're going to back off so we don't get caught. Two people feeding off of each other's energy, that can turn it into more of a hunt, you know?
Yeah.
Like, escalate it even more. And so I chose to ignore it, get into my car, and lock the door, and turn it on, and flick the lights on. And as soon as I was in the car and they heard the doors lock, it switches, they turn and walk right back out of the gate. It was
They
just...
did get inside the gate?
One of them. The other one was still outside. But I turned on the car, and I pulled right back around, out of the gate, and back around the dojo, and I opened the back door and went in and told Brian and Scott immediately what had just happened. And they were able to go out and go look. But it was just kind of one of those things where we know... that the de-escalation tactics, and we know that you're supposed to normally address a threat before it gets close, you know? But at that point, they had already expressed violent intentions, but they did it in a light of making it sound like it was just supposed to be fun for them. I didn't want to make it fun.
And you were, when saying all this, if you were further away from your vehicle at that point in time, it probably would have had to change.
Exactly.
You would have had to directly say something to them. You would have had to, if they were in between you and your vehicle or anything along those lines. The fact that kind of lined up in a way where you were right there at your vehicle and able to kind of get to it before they could get to you helped that situation out for you some too, and changed, you know, the way you may have dealt with that. Or in some cases turn around and just come straight back in.
And that's where you just have to, like most people would just say, like, follow your instincts, I guess.
Yeah.
But you have to use some people smarts, because I felt like if I changed my pace or turned and acknowledged them in any way, it was going to end up worse.
Yeah.
Like, it was going to make it more fun,
So if they
more of a
had-
challenge.
From just as a little bit of context or whatever, if they had like taken off towards you, you still were in a position where you could have got to your car and in there faster, right?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only problem is I would have had to get in from the passenger side door.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I got in and locked the door, it
Yeah.
would have been fine. But
That's fine. You could crawl over to the driver's side.
exactly. But the way it was, in ignoring them and not changing, I didn't change to a run. If I were farther away, I probably still would have tried running like for it first.
Mm-hmm.
And if that changed anything, I would have started yelling. Because I was in a good position where I knew that if I yelled, they could hear me inside of the school.
Yeah, we're not that far away.
And Kylie was actually like right at the door. Kylie saw like some of it. She saw them come around the corner. So if I yelled, I know Kylie would have been really fast to be like, Dad, go outside. So I was like, I've got several grown men that will be outside to help me in an instant. And I was just sitting there making the plan of, if I have to do something, I just know that I will only have to handle it for as much time as it takes Brian to be out that door into the parking lot.
Yeah.
The only problem is you never want to have to get that far.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to take on two grown men and come out, like, on top, with them on the ground. I can at least hold them off long enough for you to get there, I can hold them off long enough to have backup, okay? But it was a situation, and I found out later that my phone hadn't, like, warned me that I was out of minutes, like I run on minute cards. I was out of call minutes, so I couldn't have called anybody. Like, my phone was out of that. And that was like, oh, that's lovely.
You could call 911. I mean,
Yeah,
in all
but
honesty,
the problem
any
is
phone
that
can do
doesn't
that.
help.
I
Like, it doesn't, because it's 9 to 11 minutes before they get there anyway.
yeah, but I mean, well, in our case, right here, we're like 2 minutes away from the police station.
2 blocks.
Yeah, but it's still one of those things where, at that moment, I don't
Probably
exactly... I wouldn't have had the time to give them all of that information. I could have just called the number and had it in my pocket, sitting there, and they could just listen to what was happening. That was about all I could have done at that point, because I'm not going to be distracted on my phone, when there are 2 possible women coming after,
Yeah.
I realize I haven't shared this story on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes ignoring and just focusing and not escalating it by making it a challenge, It's like I felt like by ignoring it, it was going to calm them down a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Maybe them just thinking that I didn't hear what they said. Because it was just how they said what they said. It's like, oh, she probably thinks we're going to whatever. It's like in my head, I was like, I haven't looked at them yet. I think I can pull off getting to my car and then just... I think I can make them hesitate by not changing pace or anything. So I just kept an even walk all the way to my car, got in and locked the door. And I flicked that car on really fast and turned my brights on, And that was one, it was just like, this is going to be lit up and I will run you over.
My car is an improvised weapon.
Well, it has to be sometimes.
No.
Yeah, but that's another form of de-escalation that you might have to use sometime. It's just not making it fun or making it a challenge for people who are in that impaired state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, and that brings up some things, because the way you carry yourself can be a de-escalation technique as well. Just purely carrying yourself in such a way that looks like that person is probably not the type of person who that needs to be messed with.
I stared someone down one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've stared people down.
Oh, yeah.
Gentry is known for her stare down.
How does RBF stop you from being de-escalate situations there, Jentry?
It manages to make grown men scared of you.
Yeah. People generally don't mess with me a whole lot unless they're zeroed in on my kids and have not really looked at me.
Yeah.
Once they look at me, they don't generally.
You got a specific RBF story?
Not really.
Oh, really?
Not right off the top of my head, no.
No, I had one time where I was taking driver's ed, and my friend was taking driver's ed with me, and she's small and like sweet as candy, and this other girl there who was probably not from the best neighborhood, and definitely didn't act like it. She had been saying some like off the wall stuff all week, and I'm just watching her because it's just one of those things where it's just like I would just prefer to not have to deal with you, because you don't seem like the most level-headed person in the first place. Well, she just comes up to my friend and like I don't know if she's like joking or if she just has a bad style of like joking and playing around or what, but she comes up to my friend, she's like, "You want to fight?" And I like step in front of her and I just dead stare. It's like I just took my friend and I put her behind me and I looked at the girl in the eyes and was just like, and she was just like, "It wouldn't be fun anyway," and walked away. And I was just like, that was just a petty thing, but that works sometimes. It's just not saying anything, because
I've stared many people down. I mean, I've been approached by guys in parking lots. Probably the worst one was coming out of a hotel in the parking lot headed towards the beach. And there were several guys. It was bike week at Myrtle Beach, and there was a lot of guys in the parking lot, and they were all surrounding their bikes, and they started yelling at me. The bathing suit I had on said Corona across the butt of it, and they just proceeded to yell Corona at me and said some verbal things of what we could possibly do, and I did ignore them at first, and it didn't get any better, and others joined in, and I did turn around and stare them all down, and they stopped. But I mean, my husband was not with me at the time. He was waiting for me out on the beach and had no idea what was going on in the parking lot. But you don't normally come out into a parking lot where there's that many men just standing there waiting for someone to walk out that they can
sometimes
harass,
just letting people's imaginations like wander by not saying anything
Right.
helps, because
Right.
especially if they're probably just doing it because I don't know, there are people that are not actually that confident on the inside that have that like whole persona that they put on. It makes them more likely to get into fights and all of that crap, just because they want to appear one way when they know they're not all that on the inside. They just want to appear that way. And so sometimes just staring people down, it brings out that inner like questioning of themselves. Just of, I don't know what this person is capable of, and I just said all that, and now they're staring at me and I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
What do I do? It's like, I'm gonna just back off.
I think I tend to go between either stare them down or humor. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
For the most part for me. If I can get away with humor to de-escalate it, then I will. But then in some situations that just encourages it. So, but I would say those are the two things that I generally do more than anything else.
I had a guy pull a gun on me, and I stared him down. He handed me the pistol. Gentry saw it.
It was hilarious.
It was last night.
It was a very tall young man with long hair on the top, if you know who I'm referring to.
Yeah. So we were doing gun defense night. That's purely a joke.
That one has already admitted he's scared of me.
I think he's scared of most of us.
He-
Yeah. He's got good sense though.
We were doing gun defense last night. He just like shoves the gun in my face, and I just stare at him, and he goes, and just handed it to me.
He just drops his head.
Yeah, he just dropped his head and handed me the pistol. Don't count on that to actually work in a real situation. It was a rather large teenager. It was just a joke.
Having a powerful presence definitely helps with the escalation.
It really does, though, in all seriousness.
Yeah, like having that air of confidence, like making you're not like puffing your chest out and making yourself bigger, but like squaring your shoulders, standing up, and having an air of I know exactly what I'm capable of. Do you? That really gets to people, and I think it also helps when you use the traditional verbal de-escalation. I think it helps calm people down faster because it's not what they expect. It's a switch.
So yeah, in a situation like that, let's say we're using the traditional kind of de-escalation techniques where you're really calm and everything else. If you are standing there and being really calm and look confident in your abilities to handle the situation, if need be, they're going to be a lot more likely to back down in a situation like that than if you're actually like, you do all this and you look like you're cowering. Let's not fight, whatever. And
Right.
you look like you're scared. Then that's a completely different thing you're giving off, and then they're going to have that chance to bully you in such a way. And everybody thinks about bullying purely from kids' perspective, but in all honesty, a criminal and somebody looking for a target, they are looking for someone they can bully. That's the same type of mentality and the same type of idea there.
It kind of makes me think of when, like, this is probably gonna make you guys laugh, when a cat does something that gets them backed into a corner, like cats just have that switch that cuts off for some reason, and they'll just like claw your foot, for no reason, just because something to claw. Oh crap! And then they like run away, but they end up backing themselves into a corner subconsciously. And so if you're like backing them in the corner, they're going to like rear up and hiss, and lash out. But if you back off and give them a chance to walk away, they will generally like calm down and slink away. And that's kind of the way I think of most bad guys, well, not bad guys, but like people who are not being level-headed, they back themselves into a corner and then they don't see any way out without fighting, but they're sitting there thinking, oh crap, what did I just get myself into? But they can't seem to stop themselves from making it worse, So whenever you have that calm, confident presence of, this is not going to end well for you if you continue, but I'm offering you a way out, they usually slink away. And that's kind of the way I see de-escalation.
I think people tend to forget a lot of times that a career criminal, somebody who only makes their money and their living by committing crimes, okay? They too still have those same fears and everything else that a normal person does in that situation. They're still in an adrenalized state and all this kind of stuff. And there is a certain script that usually follows most of the time, and that is overwhelmed person goes, gets crazy, they take what they want and then they leave. Okay, and when that doesn't go according to plan, then they're the ones that put on like, oh, whoops. And you have to remember that person is still human. Yeah, they may have more experience hitting that adrenaline than you do, which is why I think training is super, super important, and especially stress scenario type training, super important. But still yet, it's going to be, you got to think about it. Okay, you have a career criminal that's doing that kind of stuff all the time. How many times do they have somebody like rear back up at them? It's very rare. Or in any way try to de-escalate the situation. It's usually like an overwhelm, take what they want, leave. And when then you have that situation where it's like the opposite of that, and it doesn't go according to script, that happens a lot less than somebody who is regularly training and used to being put in a situation where the adrenaline is constantly touched. Because, I just got punched in the face. I mean, we got gloves on, but I just got punched in the face. How do I deal with this? Or something along those lines,
I think there's that moment where they have to decide to commit to doing what they were planning on doing, and you have to give them the opportunity to back off, be that one way or another. Be that by shaking their confidence or just making it calm so they have the opportunity to walk away.
Yeah.
You have to find that moment where it's make or break, where they have either decided to or decided, can decide not to. There's that moment in time that you have to exploit, because even people who come up with violent intentions, even if it's not just an everyday person-to-person argument, if it's someone intending to do something, they're still going to have that moment where they have to decide to commit to it.
Yeah.
Okay? Giving them that opportunity to put their tail between their legs and walk away, it's what you have to find. Because once they make that decision of, okay, well, I'm committed, your likelihood of getting them to stop, is not as great. But if you can find that moment in between where they're not as fully committed and shake their confidence, be that just by staring them down or saying the right thing, shake their confidence in what they're doing so they have to decide to turn around, and remind them that they have the opportunity to turn around,
man, this was going really, really well.
I figured it would be a fun topic.
I was sitting here thinking, like, man, there's not a whole lot we're going to have to cut out, honestly. This part, obviously, but I mean,
I almost started laughing though when Jada was in the middle of telling her story about the parking lot, because when she said that she came back in the back to get it, to tell you and Scott, all I could picture is Scott chasing after him in his van.
Scott and I did go.
Scott just looks at me the next week and goes, "You don't have to worry about those guys." And they're like, "I see you drove your BMW today." He's like, "Yeah, I don't have any other vehicles."
All I can picture is Scott headed after him with,
You
with
just
the
see,
van.
but then, like, I came inside and you can just see like Scott go. Where did they go? Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I feel like Scott's ready to bash someone in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who. We turned the class over to somebody, and he and I went out.
Was it Daniel?
Maybe it was Daniel.
I think it was Daniel.
Okay, I couldn't remember who was here. We just said, "Here, you do this. We gotta go."
Yeah, because they went out the back door, and I was just like, okay, because I was shaken up. Obviously, I was able to handle it. I realized I have this like huge adrenaline dump after. Usually, I'm okay
That's
in the
usually-
moment.
that's-
I have a good moment of in the moment sense, you know. But after it's over, I have a whole lot of trouble coming down from it.
Well,
Like I have almost a surreal calm when something starts,
Well, a lot of
which
that
I'm
comes to
really
training
thankful
and stuff
for.
like that.
Yeah, and that's what kind of those little situations. That's what clues me in on. I think I would actually do well, like as well as someone can do if something were to actually happen. If that had gone further, I still had my mind, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't completely, fall out my butt, you know.
You saw me the day that we had the situation in the grocery store.
Yeah.
You saw me come in hours after it happened, and you said that you saw when I walked in the door that something was not right.
Oh yeah,
with
the
me.
moment you walked in the door.
I did not realize that it was still affecting me until you said something to me, and I was like, "Oh, I still feel that."
Yeah.
But that adrenaline, it was within 2 or 3 minutes after the situation ended. I was fully shaking, and it was hard for me to remember what I was trying to do, to finish what I was doing in the store, trying to put it all together, make sure those guys were not still there. But I remember, it felt like every bit of energy in my body was gone. I could just barely function at that point. And it was hours later when you noticed, when I came through the door, that I was not right.
Yeah.
So, it lasts for hours.
And that kind of goes to play with everything. Self-defense situations, like when I fought, everything, I was calm, cool, all the way up to the point of the fight. Did the fight, I was okay during the fights, and basically every fight. There was a couple times where I was nervous before a fight, but you kind of get over that to an extent. And then, but afterwards, the adrenaline dump.
And there's no way to stop it from dumping eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually, there is going to be the dump if you have that. But
Eventually, you're going to have to take a dump. That's what I heard.
your adrenaline is going to dump
Eventually.
eventually.
All right. So with that in mind, I think we can probably start wrapping this one up.
I was going to say, you almost could have done one on de-escalation and on adrenaline dumping.
I know.
Almost.
We might have to come back and revisit that subject specifically, because I think that would be pretty good. Guys, thank you very much for listening, or watching, or however you're taking this one. Make sure, we don't say this often enough, make sure that you go on and rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, because that's the easiest way, easiest place to actually write a review. But you can actually leave a review, like a star review or a thumbs up or something like that on most of the platforms now that are out there for listening to podcasts. Be sure to tell your friends about the podcast. That's something else that we don't usually say very often. Share it on some social media. That really helps. Okay, it helps us, and then it helps also to kind of get the word out about self-defense and safety and all that kind of stuff. So we really appreciate you guys for sharing our content and stuff like that. Keep your eyes open on our other channels. Like we have our YouTube channel. We're trying to put out and work on getting more and more content on that. Also, we got some gear reviews and some different things like that. We got some more videos on all that coming. I'm really excited about that. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. We're trying to do as much as we possibly can anyway. So check all that out. Any closing comments from either one of you ladies?
Throughout the week, look for examples of de-escalation that you see like coming up in your life. Not to give you homework, but do some homework. Recognize the everyday de-escalation and learn what kind of de-escalation works best in what situations.
Yep.
And that way you can kind of figure out how to better apply it to even more dangerous ones.
Yep.
Yeah. And practice being a reasonable person. Practice de-escalation first.
Yes, please. We don't want to escalate every situation. We always tell everybody that comes through, any situation, any fight that you can avoid, any situation that you can avoid using de-escalation is a win.
No, avoid using de-escalate. What?
Any situation that you can avoid by using de-escalation techniques is a win. I probably didn't say that right. But
You said any situation where you can avoid de-escalation is a win.
That's right. We want to avoid de-escalation at all costs. Punch them in the face as many times as possible. No, that's a joke. Okay.
Aw.
Avoid by using de-escalation techniques. All right. On that note, we'll see you in the next one.
Stay safe. Stay alert. Bye, guys.
Let me just get Jentry laughing in the background there. I thought she was going to say bye. But
I was going to, but I was still laughing.
Middle of an advanced class. I'm over here like, nobody. Off.
That's my mom. Hello?
Annoyed.
I am not at home.
This conversation is being recorded.
I've heard there's supposed to be storms in the afternoon, but I'm not sure.
It just makes
Okay.
me laugh so much.
Love you too.
Wait, don't like that.
Bye.